My heart pounded like a war drum as I watched everything unravel in slow motion, a searing betrayal that seared my soul and left me reeling. In that fateful moment, the fluorescent office lights flickered overhead as if echoing my inner chaos. I could hardly breathe, every instinct screaming that something had gone irreparably wrong. My trusted coworker, the one I believed was a friend, had not only stolen my ideas but had schemed behind my back to claim a promotion I had rightfully earned. And then, when I confronted our boss, his words shattered every expectation I had ever held, leaving me numb with disbelief and raw, unfiltered rage. I had always thought of work as a meritocracy, a place where dedication, talent, and hard work were the keys to success. For years, I had poured my energy into every project, staying late on countless nights, sacrificing weekends to perfect every detail. I believed that my diligence and unwavering commitment would eventually pay off. I was proud of my accomplishments, confident in the quality of my work, and always willing to help others rise. Perhaps that's why I trusted Darren, my coworker and friend, with everything, from confidential project strategies to my hopes for that long-awaited promotion. I had never imagined that the person I confided in could be the one to cut me down. It started subtly. There were whispers in the office about a new position opening up, a coveted role that would catapult one into the upper echelons of our department. I had been eyeing that promotion for months. I had even prepared my portfolio, spent late nights refining proposals, and envisioned the new responsibilities and challenges that would come with it. When our boss, Mr. Keller, announced that the promotion was up for grabs, I felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. I had worked tirelessly for that opportunity, and the thought that it could finally be mine filled me with a sense of pride and purpose. Then came the meeting that changed everything. I had been called into Mr. Keller's office one crisp Tuesday morning, the air heavy with the promise of change. I entered with my portfolio in hand, determined and hopeful. Mr. Keller, a man known for his candor and straightforward manner, had a reputation for being both fair and brutally honest. As he looked at me with those penetrating eyes, I felt my pulse quicken with the excitement of finally receiving recognition for my work. But before I could even begin to speak about my vision for the future of our department, he mentioned something that made me pause. Darren's name was being considered for the role. At first, I brushed off the news as a mere administrative decision, a rotation, a miscommunication, perhaps even a joke. But as the days went by, strange whispers and sideways glances in the hallways began to coalesce into a damning narrative. I started noticing Darren's behavior had shifted subtly. He seemed overly enthusiastic about every success I achieved, his smiles a little too forced, his compliments laced with an undercurrent that made my skin crawl. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was calculating, always looking for an opening, always waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One late evening, as I stayed behind to finish up a report, I received an email notification that made my stomach churn. The subject line was innocuous, promotion update, but as I opened the message, the contents sent a chill down my spine. It detailed how Darren had not only been in on meetings discussing the promotion behind closed doors but had actively been crafting a narrative that undermined my contributions. Every word was a betrayal, every sentence a deliberate attempt to rewrite the story of my hard work. I felt as though the ground beneath me had given way, and I was left teetering on the edge of despair. I confronted Darren the following morning in the break room. My voice was low, trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "Why?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "After everything, how could you do this?" He met my gaze with an unreadable expression, one that oscillated between feigned innocence and cold calculation. For a long, agonizing moment he said nothing. Finally he murmured, "It's just business. You know how it is." But his tone did nothing to soften the blow. It cut through me, leaving a raw wound that I wasn't sure would ever heal. I was still reeling from the shock of his betrayal when Mr. Keller called me into his office for what I presumed would be a routine performance review. The atmosphere in his office was heavy, charged with an energy that made my skin prickle. I sat down, my portfolio trembling in my grasp, trying desperately to steady my racing heart. Mr. Keller's face was inscrutable as he began to speak. "I've been reviewing the recent developments," he said slowly, his tone measured and deliberate. "And I want you to know that I'm aware of everything that's been happening behind the scenes." His words made my breath catch in my throat. I had expected anger, dismissal, even a cold finality, but what he said next was something I could never have anticipated. He continued, "I have always valued integrity and transparency in this company. I've seen your work, your dedication, your passion, and it's exactly what this department needs. Darren's actions have been noted, and I assure you, they do not go unnoticed. In fact, I've decided that your contributions will be recognized in a way that transcends this one promotion. We're restructuring the roles to better suit the talents of our team, and you will play a pivotal part in that change." His words were measured, yet they struck with the force of a sledgehammer. I felt a surge of vindication, mixed with an overwhelming sadness that the betrayal had forced me into this moment of reckoning. I left his office with a swirl of conflicting emotions. On one hand, there was relief, an affirmation that my hard work was valued despite the backstabbing betrayal. On the other hand, there was a deep, gnawing bitterness that I had been betrayed by someone I once called a friend. The office corridors, once filled with the mundane hustle of everyday work, now felt like a minefield. Every whispered conversation, every furtive glance across the cubicles, reminded me of Darren's treachery. Over the following weeks, I struggled to regain my composure. I threw myself into my work with a renewed fervor, determined not to let Darren's actions define me or derail my aspirations. I spent long hours perfecting my projects, not out of desperation for recognition, but as a form of catharsis. A way to transform my pain into something tangible, something productive. Each keystroke on my keyboard became a defiant act of reclamation, each completed project a small victory over the betrayal that had nearly broken me. Yet, beneath the veneer of professional determination, there was a simmering turmoil. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, wary of the ulterior motives of those around me. Trust, once given freely, had become a rare and precious commodity. I began to question every friendly smile, every casual conversation. The camaraderie of our team meetings, the laughter shared during lunch breaks, all took on an air of insincerity. I couldn't help but wonder, if Darren could so easily manipulate our perceptions, who else might be hiding their true intentions behind a mask of collegiality? One rainy afternoon, as I sat at my desk reviewing the latest performance reports, I received a message from an unexpected source. A senior colleague named Marissa, someone I had always admired for her candor and wisdom. Her message was brief, yet its implications were profound. "I know what happened," it read. "I'm sorry you had to go through this. Let's talk when you're ready." Her words offered a glimmer of solace in the midst of my isolation. I agreed to meet her in a quiet cafe after work, desperate for an ally who could help me navigate the murky waters of corporate betrayal. Sitting across from Marissa in that modest, softly lit cafe, I poured out the details of the past few weeks. The clandestine meetings, the underhanded tactics, the gut-wrenching moment of confrontation. She listened intently, her eyes filled with empathy. "I'm not surprised," she said quietly once I had finished. "In our industry, ambition can be a double-edged sword. People will do whatever it takes to climb the ladder, even if it means stepping on those below them." Her words resonated with a painful truth I had long suspected. "But remember," she added, "your integrity is your greatest asset. Don't let this betrayal change who you are." Her counsel, simple yet profound, became a cornerstone of my recovery. I began to see Darren's actions not as a personal failure on my part, but as a reflection of his own shortcomings, a manifestation of his greed and insecurity. I resolved to rebuild my professional identity on a foundation of authenticity, refusing to be defined by someone else's treachery. It was not an easy path. The sting of betrayal lingered like a bitter aftertaste in every interaction, every email, every casual exchange in the break room. In time, the incident began to ripple outward, affecting not only the dynamics of our small team but also the broader culture of the company. Whispers of discontent and murmurs of distrust spread like wildfire through the corridors. I noticed that some colleagues, emboldened by the exposure of Darren's machinations, began to speak up about their own experiences with favoritism and unethical practices. What had started as a singular act of betrayal was slowly morphing into a broader conversation about integrity, fairness, and the true cost of ambition. In a strange way, my personal ordeal was igniting a spark, a call for transparency and accountability that resonated far beyond my own desk. Then came the day when Mr. Keller called for a company-wide meeting. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension hanging in the air like a thick fog. I took my seat near the front, my hands clammy as I tried to steady my racing heart. Mr. Keller stood at the podium, his gaze sweeping across the room, and began to speak in a tone that was both measured and sincere. "I want to address a matter that has deeply affected our team," he said, his voice resonating with a quiet authority. "It has come to my attention that integrity has been compromised, that the trust which is the foundation of our collaboration has been violated." His words seemed to hang in the air, laden with implications that made every head in the room nod in silent acknowledgement. He continued, I have always believed that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. While it is regrettable that unethical behavior has surfaced, it also provides us with a moment to reflect on our values as a company. Today, I want to assure you that this behavior will not be tolerated, and that we will take every necessary step to ensure that fairness and transparency are restored. As he spoke, I felt a mix of vindication and sorrow. The words, though powerful, were laced with an inevitability that made me realize how deeply the betrayal had cut through the fabric of our workplace. Then, in a moment that left me utterly speechless, Mr. Keller's tone shifted to something unexpectedly personal. "I also want to acknowledge the individual who has been most affected by these events," he said, his eyes meeting mine directly. "Your work, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to excellence have not gone unnoticed. I want you to know that you are valued, and that the promotion you were so rightly in line for will be yours, not because of favoritism but because of merit and integrity." His words struck me like a bolt of lightning, a sudden jolt of clarity amid the chaos of betrayal. I felt a surge of gratitude and, for the first time in weeks, a spark of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, justice was not a lost cause in our relentless corporate jungle. That moment, however, was bittersweet. The applause that followed, the murmurs of approval from colleagues, and the congratulatory nods from those who had quietly suffered their own indignities, all served as a reminder of the cost of ambition and the scars left by betrayal. I could see Darren sitting in the back, his face a mask of contrived indifference that barely concealed his inner turmoil. The look in his eyes, however, told a story of regret and the slow dawning realization that the consequences of his actions were far more complex than he had ever anticipated. In the days and weeks that followed, the workplace atmosphere began to shift. The promotion, which I had once thought would bring me the recognition I deserved, now felt like a double-edged sword, a symbol of victory, yes, but also a reminder of the trust that had been shattered and the friendships that had been irreparably damaged. I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions, the pride of being acknowledged for my efforts and the deep-seated hurt of having been betrayed by someone I once considered a friend. Every congratulatory email, every pat on the back came with a tinge of bitterness that I couldn't quite mask. I began to spend my evenings reflecting on the events that had transpired. I would sit at my kitchen table, the glow of the streetlights casting long shadows on the walls, and write in my journal. I detailed every moment of betrayal, every harsh word, every sleepless night spent questioning my self-worth. Writing became a form of therapy, a way to process the whirlwind of emotions that had overtaken me. I wrote about the long hours at work, the sacrifices made in the hope of advancement, and the cruel irony that while I had been working tirelessly for a promotion, the price had been paid in trust and friendship. Yet even as I poured out my heart onto the pages, I recognized that holding onto the bitterness would only slow my path to healing. Slowly, I began to understand that this painful chapter, as brutal as it was, had forced me to confront aspects of myself that I had long ignored: the need for resilience, the value of self-respect, and the importance of standing up for what is right. I started to rebuild my confidence step by step, not by erasing the past but by learning from it. I sought solace in supportive friends outside of work, in the quiet moments of solitude where I could reconnect with the person I was before the betrayal, a person who believed in the power of integrity and honest effort. As the weeks turned into months, I discovered that forgiveness was not a gift for Darren, but a gift I owed to myself. I gradually let go of the seething anger that had once consumed me, replacing it with a sense of determination to move forward with my head held high. I continued to excel in my role, taking on new projects and mentoring younger colleagues who looked to me as a role model. The promotion, once a source of painful memories, now became a stepping stone, a reminder that despite the betrayals and setbacks, my own abilities and commitment could not be undermined by the actions of others. In quiet moments, I would think back to that pivotal meeting with Mr. Keller, and the shock that had rippled through me when he named me as the rightful recipient of the promotion. It was as if, in that singular moment of clarity, the universe had acknowledged my worth and given me a sign that the truth, however painful, would eventually prevail. I realized that the journey to reclaiming my dignity was far from over, but that I had taken the first steps toward building a future defined not by the scars of betrayal but by the strength that emerged in its wake. Over time, the office dynamics began to normalize, though the memories of those dark days lingered like shadows at the edges of my mind. Darren, too, underwent a transformation. I heard whispers that he had been reassigned to another department, a move that some interpreted as a consequence of his unethical actions. Whether or not he had learned from his mistakes was a question I wasn't sure I wanted to answer. For my part, I focused on my own growth, channeling my energy into innovative projects, forging new professional relationships, and even exploring creative outlets outside of work that allowed me to express the tumult of my inner life. There were still moments when the sting of betrayal would resurface, unexpected flashbacks during a quiet evening, a fleeting look in a colleague's eyes that reminded me of Darren's deceit, but I learned to acknowledge those feelings without letting them dictate my future. I embraced therapy, joined a professional support group, and began to understand that my value was not diminished by the actions of one opportunistic coworker. In fact, the ordeal had deepened my understanding of leadership and the true meaning of success. It was a lesson in resilience, that even when stabbed in the back by someone you trusted, the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. One afternoon, as I was leaving the office for the day, I paused by the window of the lobby and looked out at the city, a sprawling, vibrant mosaic of dreams and aspirations. In that reflective moment, I realized that life was too short to be defined by the actions of others. The betrayal had been a painful chapter, but it was also a catalyst for growth. I had emerged stronger, more self-aware, and with a renewed commitment to uphold the values that truly mattered. I made a silent vow to never let anyone else's ambition erode my integrity, to always stand firm in the face of adversity, and to trust my own judgment above all else. In the months and years that followed, I witnessed firsthand how the lessons of that tumultuous period shaped not only my career but every facet of my life. I found new mentors, built meaningful friendships, and even rediscovered passions that had lain dormant beneath the weight of corporate expectations. My story, once marred by betrayal and bitterness, gradually transformed into one of personal redemption, a testament to the indomitable spirit that rises even after the deepest of wounds. Looking back, I can't help but marvel at the strange alchemy of pain and progress. The day I was stabbed in the back by a coworker in the quest for a promotion remains etched in my memory as one of the most challenging periods of my life. Yet, it was also the day I discovered the true extent of my resilience. What my boss said that day, those few powerful words of recognition and support, not only validated my years of hard work but also illuminated a path forward, a path paved with self-respect, authenticity, and a determination to thrive despite the odds. Now, when I reflect on that time, I do so with a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. I mourn the loss of a friendship that was betrayed, yet I celebrate the emergence of a stronger, more determined version of myself. I have learned that true success is not measured by titles or promotions, but by the courage to stand up for one's own truth, even when the world around you seems to conspire against it. And while I cannot erase the scars of that betrayal, I choose to wear them as a badge of honor, a reminder that in the face of adversity, I have the power to rise, to rebuild, and to reclaim my destiny. Every day I continue to write new chapters in my professional and personal life, chapters that are defined not by past betrayals but by future possibilities. I've learned to navigate the complexities of office politics with a clear mind and an unyielding commitment to ethical principles. I mentor younger colleagues, sharing not only my technical expertise but also the hard-won lessons of trust, integrity, and the importance of speaking up when something isn't right. There are times, in the quiet moments before sleep, when I allow myself to relive that moment of shocking revelation, when Mr. Keller's words broke through the haze of betrayal and shattered my preconceived notions of loyalty. I remember how his voice, calm yet resolute, carried the weight of accountability and fairness. It was a turning point that made me realize that while the corporate world could be ruthless, it also held space for redemption and second chances. His decision to honor my work and to restructure our team in a way that celebrated merit above all else was not just a professional vindication. It was a deeply personal affirmation that I was more than the sum of the betrayal I had endured. As the years have passed, I've seen others in similar situations find their strength in the aftermath of corporate treachery. I've listened to colleagues recount their own stories of hurt and resilience, and I've come to understand that betrayal, as painful as it is, can sometimes be the catalyst for profound personal transformation. It forced me to reassess my values, to question the true meaning of success, and to ultimately realize that the only measure that truly matters is how I treat myself and those I care about. Today, when I walk into the office, I do so with my head held high, unburdened by the ghosts of past betrayals. I am more cautious, yes, but also more compassionate toward myself and others. I know that trust must be earned, and that every professional relationship is a delicate balance of ambition, vulnerability, and mutual respect. And while the memory of that coworker's treachery remains a sharp reminder of the fragility of trust, it no longer defines me. Instead, it serves as a powerful reminder that I have the strength to rise above the challenges, to learn from the darkness, and to emerge into the light of a new, more authentic chapter in my life. In the end, the shock of my boss's words was not merely about the promotion itself, but about the unexpected affirmation that integrity and hard work would always find a way to prevail. It was a moment of clarity that transformed my pain into purpose and my anger into a driving force for positive change. That day, I learned that even in a world where ambition can lead some to betray the very people they once called friends, there is always a path forward for those who remain true to themselves. And for that, I will always be grateful. Every step since that fateful day has been a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I now embrace my work with a renewed sense of purpose, channeling the energy of past wounds into innovative ideas and collaborative projects that celebrate the very values I hold dear. I have come to understand that the journey to success is often paved with obstacles and betrayals, but it is also filled with moments of unexpected grace and the unyielding power of personal integrity. Though the scars of betrayal still whisper to me on quiet nights, I choose to see them as a reminder of how far I've come. They are not marks of weakness but symbols of survival, a narrative of overcoming adversity and reclaiming my worth. And as I look toward the future, I am determined to build a professional life that is not defined by the actions of others, but by my own steadfast commitment to excellence, honesty, and above all, the courage to be unapologetically myself. In this intricate dance of ambition and ethics, I have learned that true leadership is not about climbing over others to reach the top. It is about lifting each other up, even when the odds seem insurmountable. I have chosen to let go of the bitterness that once threatened to consume me, replacing it with a resolve to be a beacon of integrity in a world that can often seem callous and unforgiving. And in doing so, I have discovered that the most profound promotions in life are not those that adorn a title or a corner office, but those that enrich your character and illuminate the path for others to follow. Now, as I continue my journey, I carry with me the lessons of betrayal and the strength of a heart that has been tested and found resilient. The echoes of that painful experience remind me every day that while some may choose to betray, I choose to rise, and in rising I discover not just success, but a deeper, more enduring fulfillment that comes from knowing I have stayed true to who I am. Ultimately, the story of that tumultuous period in my career is not just one of betrayal and shock. It is a story of transformation. It is a reminder that even when the very people you trust decide to turn their backs, you have the power to redefine your destiny, to reclaim your narrative, and to build a future that is entirely your own. And so, every time I face a new challenge, every time I step into the uncertainty of a demanding day at work, I remember that fateful moment of revelation and the unexpected kindness of a boss who saw the truth in me. That memory fuels my determination, reminding me that no act of treachery can ever extinguish the light of one's integrity. I am now a living testament to the idea that from the deepest wounds can emerge the greatest strength. I continue to move forward, one day at a time, with a renewed commitment to excellence and an unshakable belief that while betrayal may scar the heart, it can never diminish the spirit that burns within.